Welcome, seekers. This is G, and I am going to talk about March. Talk a little bit about Neptune because this is part of the full moon that happens on March 9th. I'm also going to weave in a personal reading, and we'll discover together some of the sensitive degrees that are in this person's chart. So you want to listen up. If you have anything at the 19, 20, 20, I'm watching the cat, 19, 20, 21 degrees of Virgo energy. This is the full moon location. And on the opposite side of that is the Neptune and Sun, which is going to be at Pisces. So it's roughly about 18, 19, 20 degrees. Now, Neptune dissolves the physical world, so we could feel some lessening of our physical vitality and strength around this time. But what I also want to touch in with is the square that we have that's occurring with, actually it's a T-square. It's with Chiron and the North Node. Okay, so let's dive deep to understand better what this is all about. And by the way, if you're new here or if you have been watching but you don't know about any of these things I'm talking about, you don't know where they're located in your chart and you want to know, just comment your stuff down below and I will take care of you. I'll comment back. I will hook you up. We'll put you into our free reading rotation. So let's get into the all astrology right here, right now. So for the beginning of March, March is a time where we have some transiting. Actually, there's quite a few things transiting. The planet Venus is going to be moving, leaving behind the independent, fiery Aries energy and going into grounded, peaceful, stable, earthy Taurus energy. Now, Venus likes this because Venus rules Taurus. So this is great. So you're going to want to find out where's Taurus energy in your chart, okay? Then you're going to know where Venus is transiting what area of your life. That house placement has everything to do with the connection of the where in my life. Venus changes in Taurus slightly, right? Because Taurus is more about, Venus is relationships and peaceful relationships, things being fair and peace, things being beautiful and pleasant, likes very nice things. So wants people to be very nice, right? And that also means not just in appearance, but in etiquette, in how they hold themselves and how they speak and communicate. You know, all the very finer things, that is all very Venusian stuff. Venus is very creative and very artistic, and so sometimes can be a bit idealistic. Neptune is the higher octave of Venus energy. And so that's what that means. It means like, oh yeah, when I think about love and a relationship, then we start thinking ideally. All that Hollywood crap tends to come in and we think, oh, this is the way it's supposed to be, how it's supposed to look. And then all of a sudden we've got a problem because we find out in the tangible 3D world, holy crap, it doesn't work like that all the time, right? There might be a little bit of that stuff, but the greater percentage is just the regular, everyday get up, look at the same face, make breakfast, eat the same food the same way with the same person, and then lay down with that same person and blah, 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 right? Like repetition, nothing's new, right? So it comes to where it's not always, oh yeah, traveling around the world, jet setting, eating different things and seeing different things and just having these new fresh experiences all the time. There's the regular day-to-day stuff, the mundane stuff that's involved in relationship. Venus wants things to be fair. She loves things to be balanced, beautiful. That is Venus. Find out where this energy is because at the beginning of March, Venus takes on this tone, this more artsy, more finer things in life tone. What that means is your desire levels may go up a notch, right? Because Venus is about what I want. And Venus is my money as well, my cash, my financial, my actual resources, what I own. But it can also be in a non-tangible, more of an esoteric meaning is, how do I value myself? What is it that I value? Am I busy just valuing things? Or do I realize that things are just things, right? Where is the deep value? Mercury goes direct, okay, March 10th. So there's a window of clarity that we're all going to get. And it's a small window because by the 16th, Mercury's dipping into the Piscean waters. So when this happens, you want to understand that if you've got something in your life that's a big decision or things you have to sign, documents, contracts, stuff like that, you know, you want to be doing it during those clear days. All right. Now, if you know your rising sign, there are specific readings for that tells you when your window of clarity is coming up because it's tied into the full moon energy, which is the front end, I should say, of March videos that have been already released. They were released a week ago. So if you haven't watched yours, you need to. If you don't know what your rising sign is, just so that we can be clear here, typically when people talk about their birthday, okay, like the birth date and the birth month they were born, that is your sun sign. When we talk about a rising sign, that is all about the time of day you were born. So if you don't know what that is, comment your stuff down below. I will help you figure that out. March 20th, we have the sun going into Aries. This is beautiful. I've always been a favorite of this. For everybody in general, if you think about this is spring, right? Everybody loves spring, especially if you live, in the areas of the world where, your winters are cold and rough and harsh. So springtime comes around and it's all of a sudden like, wow, we have this optimistic way of doing things. Things just seem brighter. There's more sunlight. We are fiery. We're more like, yeah, let's go do this. Let's do that, right? We are more spontaneous. Like, let's just get in the car and go. This is Aryan energy. I want to be the first. I want to just go do this. Maybe don't think things through, right? Remember, Aryan energy is like that fine wine. When it's young, it is impulsive. It forgets some of the details. As we age, if we have a lot of planets in Aries, we develop layers of complexity and we blossom into this beautiful being who incorporates the others, not just self. Recognizing every spring, we feel this, right? Every spring, the sun moves into Aries and we have this change. We have this newness. Aries is a cardinal sign, so it's a beginning. It's a fresh start, so to speak. I want to be able to explain the big T-square that we have. Now, we're already feeling it. Today is the 27th of February. It is the South Node, it is the North Node, and it is Chiron. Find out, you're going to want to know, where do you have Cancer and Capricorn energy in your chart? Where is the Aries? Because the Cancer North Node, Capricorn South Node, and in Aries, we have our Chiron. Chiron is our deepest emotional wound. All right, folks, it is all about self. So you can get more specific, detailed meaning out of that when you find out what area of your life it's in. By your chart. Your chart will tell you. Again, you don't know, comment. I will take care of that for you. We are releasing. Our cardinal South Node in Capricorn is what we're releasing, folks. Now, Capricorn energy is our structures, is our old way of doing things. It is systems that have been built up over a long period of time. And it's usually big things. So like structural things in our society. So that's our business, big businesses, and government. Things that have been built over a long period of time. And because Capricorn represents the authority, that's Saturn, it's the authority in our lives. Typically, it could be, like I said, government, policing, any structures of government. And typically, we look to some people, like when we think about it in a personal way, father figures in our life, right? Or whoever is the authoritarian in our life. So that could be a whole load of people. When you're children, obviously, it's mom and dad. But at the job, it's the boss, it's the manager, it's the owner, however big of a company you work for. And if you are the owner of that company, you are the Saturn, right? You are the Capricorn, you are the authoritative person. You're the one that says, hey, these are the rules, they're not being followed, you're fired, right? That would be you then. We're letting this go. We are releasing the old way of doing these things. Find out what area of your life this is in because you're letting that go, which means we're going to be creating something new. But what is that new? It's the opposite. It is go to your Cancer energy. Cancer energy is about home, nurturing, mom, family, feelings, and emotions, right? Honoring all of that. And why is all that important? Because healthy human beings make productive employees. Healthy human beings make people who are productive in society. Okay, who contribute to society instead of leeching and taking away, right? So this is what we're doing. This is what we're moving towards. This is our future. Holding on and grasping what gives one emotional sense of security. Why is the whole mom and family, why is that important anyway? Okay, so find out what area in your chart, what house number this is in. And that will give you more meaning as to where you're headed and what you are to embrace going forward. And this is what we are all doing collectively, because this is the transiting, which means the north nodes as they're moving, as that axis is transiting up in the sky. I want you to think about family and home. Family and home on a really small scale is your house, right? Is your mom, the one who gave birth to you, right? But think of it on a bigger scale. What would that be on a grand scale? Let me know your answers down below. All right, I want to give out a birth time, birth date, birth city, birthplace. Okay, this is October 20th, 1979, 4:41 p.m. Arlington, Texas. You have been selected. You are the winner. You are the next runner-up, blah, 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 blah. All right, so the first thing we're going to talk about for you is you actually are in the midst of a time in your life where you really are questioning yourself and your ambitions. Okay, this is a transit. It is Neptune squaring your natal Neptune. By the way, for everybody else who's listening, this person, this chart, it has their sun sign in Libra at 2654 and their moon sign in Libra at 2441. By the way, this person also has a Pluto at 1927 in Libra. So you think this person is working on what for this lifetime? Relationships. Venus ruled, right? Venus ruled areas of their life. So in matters of Taurus, big deal in this chart. Matters of Libra, big deal. When I talked about Venus about to start something new going through Aries, this is relevant. Right now you're questioning yourself. You have self-doubts. You're questioning who you are, your identity, life in a certain way, in a certain aspect, who you are tangibly. It's almost as though you feel like you've been, living this life, not really here. Like you really would identify with the being who is just a spiritual being in a physical body, right? Like that's you. And your ambitions and goals are so high, okay? But you're always setting new ones, right? So as soon as you've got one that you think you've accomplished, although I have to be honest with you, they're really, really, really high, like super idealistic. This would be important to keep in mind. That's the cat, by the way, because these high ideals directly square your significant one-on-one relationships, okay? They almost make your perception of your relationships very negative, very discouraging. So there's this energy going on where it's about disappointment and almost negativity and almost a pessimistic view at times, which it might not be so. It's not to say like you're a negative nanny. That's not the point. The point is that when we have views that are so unattainable goals, because that can't be reached, anything that isn't that, we just kind of frown on it unless we realize it. And, maybe you've come to that point in your life where you realize that. And if you have, wonderful. Then you're already ahead of the game, okay? However, at this time, because there's this other thing going on, this Neptune squaring Neptune, it is challenging that. It is challenging your beliefs specifically. Your beliefs about yourself and your beliefs about your ambitions and your goals in the world, okay, which are very high, very idealistic. You're at a time where I have written down, you're reevaluating who you are. This is a time where you do not act, you simply observe. Observe and learn who you are. Because who you are fluctuates, right? Yeah, you would know this better than anybody. There's this constant morphing that goes on. I don't know if I said this, but you're a Pisces ascendant. I might not have. It might have blown right out of right beyond me. Pisces ascendant at 10 degrees, right? And 26 minutes. So you've got this whole very ethereal, 5D, non-tangible vibe about how you appear. Okay. When it comes to your thinking, though, because you have Mercury in your third house, it's ruled by Gemini there, you may surprise some people because you appear to be this you don't have your feet on the ground, right? But when it comes to thinking, you actually will be spot on, especially when it comes to people. You have so much Scorpio energy. Your sun, even though it's in Libra, it's in the 8th house along with your moon. The 8th house is the house of the unknown. It is the metaphysician. It is the house of the other side. And you've got so many other planets there. You need to be connecting in with spirit, honestly. And with the momentum you have, go one step higher. Not just any old spirit, not just with dead loved ones, and not that there's anything wrong with that, but go for the goal, man. Go for source. Connect to the universe. You have the universe with you. And so you can go there. And I don't see how you could not be doing that. And maybe you're somebody, because there's so much logic and rationale in your third house, You may be somebody who rationalizes information when it comes in and not realizing you're getting, right, you're getting messages. Okay, so this takes a lot of troubleshooting. Lots of troubleshooting of, is it mine or is it divine? Really does. And it just takes practice. It takes work. It's not necessary. It's hard to differentiate because you don't want to give a message to somebody if it's really a message for you. There's that whole filtering of how do I differentiate between the two? You're reevaluating who you are. Okay? So this is like an experimental time. All of 2020 is that. Now let's talk about relationships because this is a big deal in your chart. The whole thing on March 9th, the full moon stuff, it involves your natal Saturn. When the moon is there, it's like depression time. I'm just going to keep it real for you. Now, whether you've experienced this before, there may be times that you do, but at this particular time, because Neptune is opposing it, it's discouraging. It's additional discouragement, okay? Moon's down here, Neptune and the sun are down here, but you also have the moon. Your Saturn is at 22 degrees, so it's not exactly conjunct. We have a 1937 full moon, but trust me, the full moon is still going to be pretty big when it goes over your Saturn. Okay, it's not going to take long to get there. It's a matter of like 6 hours and it'll be there. Now, maybe this will happen, when you're not around others. You could be by yourself. You could be asleep. I don't know where you live in the world, and that's okay. But just recognizing this cycle, recognizing this time of discouraging thoughts, and there are going to be discouraging thoughts about my relationships. And this could be your relationships with work. It could be relationships with your health, with your own body. It could be in terms of pets, domestic pets, because this is all Virgo stuff. So projects, day-to-day routines and projects. This is all part of that. And I just want you to be aware that you're just going to allow it to pass over you and detach from it. I know it's not going to be the easiest thing to do because you will also be feeling others' emotions at this time. All of us will be, but our empathy, our empathic abilities heighten on this particular full moon. All right, again, this is March 9th. We do feel emanations of the full moon beginning earlier. So like March 7th, 8th, 9th is when I'm actually giving that stronger window for folks because of the fact that Neptune is literally like at 18 degrees and the sun and the Neptune, on the 8th, 7th and 8th are really concentrated there. So be aware of feeling others' stuff, and it might not be healthy for you. Okay, it might be something you need to detach from and to set up healthy borders and boundaries. So do some energetic work. If you know how to do that, do it, or do whatever works for you. We are now moving on to March 14th. I have some stuff that's going on. Again, it's relationships again for you. There's a heightened sense of pressure coming from folks in your life. It's significant one-on-one relationships, people that you value. Your chart and the things you've been going through, and you've been going through a lot of stuff challenging wise. It's significant one-on-one relationships, but it's also your friendships, and these are friendships at work. But it's all in your 11th house too. So that is groups of people. So maybe you're not real close to these people at work, but maybe you deal with groups, large groups of people, or maybe it's not even large. A group can be 8 people, could even be 5 people, right? But it's groups. It's structured groups is what it is, more specifically. And somehow this, because Pluto's right there at 24 degrees, and, well, your moon is at 24 degrees Libra. That's a cardinal square. But you're also dealing with your sun there. So all of this is not only going to affect your emotions, but your vitality. This isn't going to last forever. This eventually will change. Unfortunately, it is Pluto doing the squaring. Pluto is deeply transformational stuff. Okay, so it's not just relationships at home, significant relationships, personal relationships, but it's business relationships. It's my friendship groups changing as well. And these could be friends that you've had for a long time, because that's another way of reading this, Capricorn energy. It doesn't have to just be work. It could be friends you've had since you were in kindergarten, right? Are you one of those people? It looks like you would be. Someone when you make friends, they've just stayed. You've had friends for a long time. That might be being tested. Definitely being tested, being challenged. And so I just want you to be aware, this is just that time that you're in. This is just the cycle. And it's okay. Don't fight it. Don't take it personal either. I know that's hard to do. This squares your sun and your moon, so that's your emotions and your vitality. But realize that certain things and people are no longer a part of where you're headed. This is how this works. We all know people that we've been friends with, and then somehow those things just kind of dissolve and fade away over the years. It's okay. We're supposed to change. All right. And you know that better than anybody. You've got Pluto and Libra. So you know that if you're in relationships where people aren't growing and evolving and changing, you know, there's some underlying depth that's within you that you demand out of others, because Pluto is very powerful. And so you were able to hook up with people who you see they do that, or they have the capacity, the inclination to do that. And when that ends, when that stops, it's like, oh, we got to change things. So you know more about this than I could ever speak to right now, because you recently experienced Pluto squaring Pluto. You experienced all of that. So you're really at the phase now where at first it was more like business, but now it's affecting the emotions. It's almost like the person who went to war, and then it's like the aftermath that they're dealing with. So it's like, holy shit, right? They've got PTSD, they've got, they're going through all this stuff, the aftermath stuff. And that is what it looks like. And so 2020, 2021, yeah, this is all still here. You're still dealing with it, but you have support, okay? Right now, when Venus goes into Taurus, all right, I'm liking this actually, and the beginning stages, there's something that happens where it causes friction, okay? But it's a good friction. It's how you find out who you need to just release, where you say, you know what, I've been working on this shit too long. It shouldn't be this damn hard, right? And just let it go. So that's what these T-squares do. And so I'm glad that this happens for you at this time. It's, like I said, mid-March, but then when we move to the new moon energy, there's a strengthening. There's a strengthening of values for self. Venus now, when we go to March 24th, the new moon, specifically for you, okay. This Mercury retrograde's been interesting. I'll have stuff that just automatically starts up in the middle of, like, music just comes from nowhere. I mean, it's nice, right? But it's not really part of the show. It's not part of the program. So we're you personally, it's a challenge to where you're going and a challenge from what you're releasing. Now, what that means is, you know how when we are in the transition phase, how awkward that can be? Like, we're letting this thing go and we're moving forward with this, but yet it's just like we're in flux still. And so that's what this is. Now, the areas of your life that this is happening in, this is all about self, who I am. It could involve your physical body, just so you know, because Aries is involved. So it's starting something new and challenges to starting something new in regards to yourself. It's going to there's going to be tension and stress that you'll be feeling, not real strongly, but a little bit of resistance, maybe from people that you work with, people who are in your friend group, maybe from people that are, in your home, or maybe just from, maybe just simply things at home, right? Like you want to begin something, say you wanted to work out at home, but all of a sudden, like, well, there's nowhere to do it. You don't have this, you don't have that, just like simple little things, not major stresses, because you don't have any, it's the nodes that are squaring you. You don't have any natal planets there, which is good, which means you might feel a little bit of stress and a little bit of frustration, but there's no additional planets there. Right? So all it is a testing of, are you really committed to do this new beginning? And so I wanted you to be aware of that, because it's a time of, don't give up. It's just a little setback, but it's not major at all, okay? You see something and you decide, you know what? I can make this work. I can make this simple adjustment, and this can happen. So there's so much information here about you coming through, about yourself going through. It's like a self-rehab, because there's also an indicator in terms of food, all right? Pretty soon what's going to happen when March comes around, keep those dates, March 24th, March 25th. Write those down. I want you on the 25th to maybe do some new moon wishing and some intentions. And you're going to make them all about yourself. Things that you've realized about yourself, these new beliefs that you think you have, they're not set in stone, okay? Be flexible. Remember, there is no other sign in the astrology that is better at experimentation than Aries. And that is because Aries likes to do things, likes new things. It loves starting new projects. It loves exploring. It loves to be the first one in an area, to say, I'm the explorer, I did it first, I saw this first, I got there first. That's Aries energy. And this new moon is all about that. It's a new beginning, a fresh start. And we don't always know the next steps, but that's what the new moon intention's for, all right? Those intentions of show me the next correct steps for me, okay? This is going to be key. And somehow, like I said, food is going to be a factor here. Food's going to be involved. Somehow it tying in with home and maybe self-nurturing with food, and probably began as a small child. It could have even been carryover from previous lifetimes, okay? There's a Neptune relief coming I wanted to mention for you too. That whole thing I mentioned at the beginning about Neptune and questioning who you are right now, reevaluating who you are. There's going to be a little bit of relief coming at the April 26th, roughly. Like Neptune gets far enough away from squaring your natal Neptune. I wanted to give you like a window of hope, something to look forward to. Because when we question who we are, it's a good thing. But when we have a lot of other challenging stuff going on, which you do, because when you're questioning who you are and you're losing friends, you know, you can't help but be like, oh my God, am I the cause? Am I the reason? You are changing, okay? And you're supposed to change, all right? And they are too, and they're supposed to. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to lose every single friend in your life. It doesn't mean that every relationship that begins is going to be garbage and that there's nothing new and fresh coming. There is. There's always new and fresh stuff coming. And this is kind of leading me to the next part of the reading for you, which I'm excited about, May, all right? May of 2020. Uranus is a big deal because Uranus is going to be swinging up to get to like 6-7 degrees in Taurus. Now, when this happens, it sends a beautiful trine to your North Node. Right now, February, end of February, you already received beautiful benefits from Uranus. And as the beginning of March begins, Uranus is sending a perfect trine, an exact trine, to your natal Jupiter at 357 Virgo. So having that there sets you up for a pleasant experience in groups, in friends, all right? What you value, and at work or something to do with health or projects in some way, you actually have a grand trine there. And it's well, I'm not going to go into the depths about it, but it might not be super obvious because you don't have all three setups. One of the planets that makes the grand Earth trine for you is a transiting thing happening. It's actually an eclipse point. So there's probably a benefit that came, and it could simply just be a good new friendship, okay? But it's something material and tangible. It's something practical, logical, and rational, which when that full moon comes, I know I'm flipping all over the place, but when that full moon happens and there's that discouragement, just hold on to the rational and the logical, and not so much just, go to the other side of being kind, because Virgo energy, when it gets really laser-like focused, it becomes overcritical. And I don't want you to do that to yourself or to anybody else in your life, okay? Now, Uranus 2020 for you. It's going to send a perfect trine to your North Node. This is all about projects. This is about work. This is about health. It is more of a focus on self and help, actually, because it's in your 6th house, and that is help. That is health. That is my relationship with my body. That is my projects. Like, what do I do? What are my habits that I do every single day that set up good health practices, that support my good health practices, patterns? And that's what we want to do. And this is your Virgo energy, so it's logical, it's rational, but your North Node is here. So if you already are not incorporating North Node energy in your life, which is one of your soul's goals, by the way, you're going to want to do that. Now, just the only thing you want to keep in mind is to don't get hung up in the details, because it's one of the Virgo qualities is they know all the things that it takes. They're great troubleshooters. They know, well, this is how I'm going to get this done because this is what I need to get this done, right? They're really good for that. This is going to help you to catapult into 2021. This is what all of 2020 is looking like. It's this focus on self. It's this focus on improvements of health. And just remember, being adaptable and practical in how you think. Now, I see energy there that shows that you definitely have that, but your North Node, squares your Gemini third house thinking, which means the thought about doing that, it just kind of, it's just kind of uncomfortable. Okay, it's just kind of an irritation. But anytime something gets to like 7 or 8 degrees, either in Gemini or Sagittarian energy, it's going to be bothersome. It's going to create stress and tension on what you came to do, which is your North Node stuff. Now, along with this Uranus trining that North Node, it then triggers your Chiron, which is your deepest wound. And our deepest wound is something we're usually not aware of, but it has something to do with what you value, how you value yourself, all right? And it may take time to figure that out. And opposing all that energy is how you connect with other people's energy, because you have so much in Scorpio energy. There's so much focus on other folks' energy in your chart that there's no time to look in the mirror. And with that, realize that if you are willing and brave enough to look into the mirror and be kind, that Uranus energy is going to trigger your descendant, which is relationships. Okay, so when you figure out how to have a more kind relationship with self, okay, using practical, logical, rational ways of thinking, right? Not being self-critical, but things that help the self move forward, okay, objectively. You are going to find out that once you do the inward work, the outward, the boomerang, because that's what energy is going to come to you, and you're going to get what you desire. Okay, so I hope this has put some light upon your path. Pisces ascendant, Pisces rising. Bye.